Welcome to the episode of the GSMC Wrestling Laureate Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your favorite wrestling fan here, live every Monday night on the GSMC Podcasting Network, the GSMC YouTube Sports Network page. So make sure you guys, Superman punch that like and subscribe button to get some notifications when we publish videos, and also go live. Definitely missing you guys live. Used to go live maybe, like 5 times a week. Now, due to circumstances, working 2 jobs to provide for the fan bam, it just happens. We are living in that day and age where, can't just live off of one income nowadays. But, it is what it is. Nothing bad about working hard, working your arse off. So on the free time, I do this, where I would hope to, talk to you lovely people about professional wrestling. So no longer, let's stop the procrastinating and get into it. We have a great show for you today all lined up. We're going to talk about Smackdown. We're also going to talk about Karrion Kross's killer promo. That was, oh God, it was a beauty. It was a beauty. It was a work of art, and it comes from the heart, and that's a lot. That's definitely why under this Triple H Paul Levesque era, you've been seeing a lot of viral promos, and with the whole Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair going at it, maybe just a little sense of realism to it. So we're gonna break that down. Our third segment, we got TNA Rebellion. Gonna give you guys my picks and preview predictions. Then we're gonna talk about NXT stars to be called up. I got a handful of them. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys know what direction WWE is based on what happened recently on Raw and a couple times on SmackDown. In our fifth and final segment, we got Trick Williams. Is that Whoop That Trick era done in NXT? And if not, what's some possible storylines for him? Does he stay an aggressive babyface, or does he turn heel? And kind of following not the footsteps of Carmelo Hayes, his former tag team partner, but Carmelo Hayes wanted Trick Williams to kind of open up his eyes to all the politics, and sometimes you can't be a good guy if you want to maintain and keep what you want, and he wasn't, and now he's no longer the WWE NXT World Heavyweight Champion. So maybe some lessons to be learned there. So we're gonna jump on into the show, but before we get on into any of that, I just want to remind you guys to go ahead and hit up that tips and donations link. Whether if you got a burning question or hot take in terms of a little professional wrestling here at the GSMC Sports Network, we are all ears, 1,010%. We want to make sure that you guys are getting everything off your chest. So don't be shy to drop your comments inside the comment section. Go ahead and sound off. Tell me, guys, how you feel about this, this segment. And we can definitely go from there. And if you really want to make sure to, that your comment, question, or concern gets noticed on air, obviously right now, not live. But when we do go live, when I go live Monday nights at 8 p.m., make sure you guys, hit up the comment section, share exactly what you want. It doesn't necessarily have to be a super chat. Just want to make sure you guys are, know that you can participate in this show openly. I absolutely prefer it. I would, rather than me babbling up here for an idiot, like an idiot for an hour. So, definitely would love to hear from you guys, your super chats. Obviously, if you guys want to give, obviously anything is greatly appreciated. It helps us keep these amazing podcasters doing what they do best, is making sure you guys consume all the sports content that you guys love so damn much. And guess what? It's already free. So if you subscribe, you get some free content. Super cool. We are super grateful for each and every one of you guys who joins us here daily on the GSMC Sports Network. Your support makes all the difference. So let's get this party started. Send in those super chats, those super tickers, because you guys are super awesome, and together we will make sure this podcast is the best wrestling podcast in the world, together as one. Of course, if the super chat not your thing, go ahead and hit up that tips and donations link. Tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like. Like I said, just remember to Superman punch that like and subscribe button to the show. Follow the show, follow the network, and you will do no wrong. So without further ado, without further gilding the lily, we're going to go ahead and get on into it. we have some WWE Smackdown preview. Obviously, the Smackdown after Monday Night Raw seems to be, like it's going to be a banger after banger after banger. Yeah, there's a lot of lingering storylines, so we're going to talk about some Smackdown. They're going to be live in Fort Worth, Texas. If you guys are, I think, no, they don't stream on Netflix. That's just Raw. But, so a lot of people do have to wait till 8 p.m. I know on the East Coast it does, it does air around 5, because of the 3-hour show and everything. So, I'm going to hate it when SmackDown goes back to 2 hours, I got to be honest. I love the fact that, with WWE having 3 hours, an extra hour to ultimately cut in, you can put in a lot new faces. I love the fact that Carmelo Hayes hopefully gets a push after his Andre the Giant Battle Royal win. The tag team division right now is on fire, and I feel like it is because of the 3-hour stretch. So, definitely it's going to hurt a little bit. But speaking of the tag team division, we have the first ever TLC match. Well, not the first ever, but it's been a while since it's been on SmackDown. We got D.I.Y. taking on the Street Profits, the tag team champions, and Motor City Machine Guns. Obviously, you saw the Street Profits, not defending the tag team titles on at WrestleMania, which kind of sucks. I really hope that I feel like every title should be defended at WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and Royal Rumble. I feel like that for the 4 big main cards, where sometimes SummerSlam is moving to 2 days, a 2-day event this year. So, can't wait. I definitely would love to see, that's the reason why I feel like I give AEW, their PLEs are pretty amazing because, the card is stacked all the time. It doesn't have to be a specific PLE. It's all stacked. So I definitely can't wait to see this match. It's going to be, Motor City Machine Guns, fire. Street Profits, absolutely fire. D.I.Y., I've been waiting for them to get that push. They won the championship, dropped it to the new young bloodline. Then, then eventually got it back from Shelly and Sabin. So this can go either way. Pretty deadly. They got their shot. Obviously, sitting on the sidelines here. Los Garza as well got a shot, but didn't live up to to the potential of winning or expectations. So I think obviously match of the night, main event. Maybe this might be a main event. If you look on WWE.com or if you check around for SmackDown, SmackDown previews for tonight, they don't really give you a lot. They just kind of gave me that ladder match. But we know John Cena is on the card. He's expected to be on SmackDown. Definitely checked out his the rest of his dates in his retirement tour. They said it's supposed to stretch out to November, early December. So John Cena, he the new WWE champion. That's congratulations to him. 17-time, above Ric Flair. I feel like he ultimately does deserve it. Nobody in the business of WWE deserves it more than John Cena, and I'm happy that he got it. Turning heel, it is what it is. I kind of wanted it to happen, but in like a different way. This whole thing with The Rock and Travis Scott, it's a little wonky. I feel like WWE will pull it all together, and hopefully tonight we get to hear from John Cena. But you also have Randy Orton lingering around the corner. Maybe Cena gets RKO'd again. Are we going to hear from Cody Rhodes? Cody Rhodes, there was a moment on social media where it showed him and Brandy kind of walking away. Super upset they lost the WWE Championship. Cody Rhodes obviously getting cheated out of it. First time ever John Cena's kind of won that way, which was, pretty good for the storyline purposes. What's next for the American Nightmare? WrestleMania Backlash is 3 weeks away, May 10th. So we can, start building up some content for that show. I feel like he will ultimately get a grudge match. Winning back the championship, not too sure. Definitely not too sure. I want to see Randy. I would love to see Randy and John Cena go at it. Obviously, Backlash taking place in St. Louis, Missouri. So, I don't know. It's maybe it might be, a poetic justice to kind of have Cody's right-hand man, Randy Orton, take on John Cena. Rey Fenix suffers a loss to Grande Americana at WrestleMania. I know Santos Escobar has his eye on him. And then, during the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, too, there was a little miscommunication there. So now I think we're going to get a Santos Escobar Rey Fenix feud, which is going to be super duper badass. Charlotte Flair, dropping her chance to become the women's champion at WrestleMania. Obviously, congratulations to Tiffany Stratton. What's going to be next for the Queen? Will she try to get a rematch at Backlash? Who knows? If anybody can do it, it'd probably be her. What's next for the WWE Women's United States Champion? Last week she got pinned by Zelina Vega. Zelina Vega would be an amazing, suitor to be the next, the second ever Women's United States Champion. So we'd love to see that built up more. Jade Cargill coming off of a win against Naomi. I feel like she would be great as a mid-card title holder. Maybe the next one to challenge Chelsea Green. But like I said, Zelina Vega also on top of that list. But now what's going to happen next for Jade Cargill? Tiffany Stratton, obviously, like I said before, retaining the WWE Women's Championship at WrestleMania Night 1. We're going to hear from her. Maybe, potential challengers. I love the fact that Tiffany Stratton, but then this kind of sounds bad. I love that she kind of plays to the competition a little bit. Like there was a couple of times in that match where Charlotte seemed like she was holding Tiffany by the hand a little bit, slowing down spots, so she can catch up. But it's good for her. She's learning. No, obviously a little rough around the edges, but you're still young. Tiffany Stratton's still super young. Going to be the future of the WWE Women's Division on SmackDown. Or maybe she makes her way to Raw during the draft. That's also something to take into consideration. Are they going to mention anything about the WWE Draft tonight? I highly doubt it, but hey, it could happen. Jakob Fatu is your new WWE United States Champion. Are they going to finally start building up this, Tribal Chief, Solo Sikoa? Tungaloa maybe comes back. Zila Fatu, Hikuleo comes in the picture. Like right now, the Bloodline storyline seems dead. So obviously, I feel like the only one besides Jay, but Jay is completely, I feel like he's out of the picture as of the Bloodline storyline. But now Jacob has a title. He has the main mid-card title on WWE Smackdown. Now there's kind of something to fess and fight over, and it's going to be perfect when they put Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu back together. But of course, LA Knight still has a rematch, but he got beat pretty soundly. But hey, it is what it is. Whereas Alexa Bliss Sunday, usually the SmackDown to Raw after Mania. I kind of compare WrestleMania to like the Super Bowl. After it's a clean slate, fresh storylines, and I would definitely love to see Alexa Bliss back in WWE. The Wyatt Six, ever since we found out they're on SmackDown by Nick Aldis and The Miz was running rampant all over trying to find some formidable allies. When are they going to bring these guys back? They had such a huge pop, obviously losing to the Final Testament for no apparent reason. But of course, you find out later that I think Bo Dallas was the one who was injured, and without Uncle Howdy, there's kind of you kind of cut the head off the snake there. Love to see them back on SmackDown, but I feel like they'll be back after the draft. Like I said before, Carmelo Hayes getting that push after winning the Andre the Giant Battle Royal Memorial Battle Royal. Okay, it's a little bit of tongue twister there. So congratulations, obviously, first and foremost to him. I definitely love Carmelo Hayes, and I want to see him do more than what he's already been portrayed in SmackDown. Damian Priest coming off of a loss in that street fight. How is he going to bounce back? Drew McIntyre, he won pretty soundly. Not soundly, it was clean. It's a street fight. So, no rules. I want to see... these guys kind of come back together, shake hands, the better man won, yada, yada, yada. And then they bust out into a fight once again. Something about Drew McIntyre, and, you kind of credit him for this, is to be able to drag out a storyline and a rivalry for about, for a solid 3 months. Like him and CM Punk, oh my God, it just seemed like it just dragged on forever. So I feel like at Backlash, you're going to get another run at this match. We're going to run it back. And this time, Damian Priest wins. And then maybe the final, they'll be tied 1-1. And then, after that, 1-1, meaning that without any outside interference, obviously, when Damian Priest was the World Heavyweight Champion. So, maybe SummerSlam, we see these guys go at it, winner take all kind of situation. But Drew McIntyre also on fire. Nia Jax, what's next for Nia Jax? Where has she been? The WWE, WrestleMania roast kind of went down under. There are a lot of WWE is deleting footage. Anybody having that footage could be in deep trouble if they post it. So Nia Jax was the one roasting Charlotte Flair, saying that she was in a competition with her dad who can drop the most divorces or something like that. Obviously that is absolutely horrible. That's crazy. But Nia Jax has to come back to WWE. Would be interesting to find out her confronting Tiffany Stratton again. Naomi loses against Jade. Obviously, that's what it was meant to be. Jade had a chance to work with, three close friends inside of a storyline, and then her and Naomi. I think Naomi did a great job to kind of help Jade, learn the ropes in terms of what it means to be in a WWE event, somewhere like WrestleMania where the nerves can run high, and kind of being in there with someone that you don't know so much inside the ring. You're talking to each other, you're trying to give each other, nonverbal cues. And it's kind of like wrestling your best friend. A lot of WWE wrestling wrestling all in general. Sometimes the best rivalries are best friends going at it, like Christian Cage and Adam Copeland in AEW. Also Triple H and Shawn Michaels as well. So can't wait to find out what's gonna happen on SmackDown. The SmackDown after Mania is expected to be a banger. I can't wait to watch it. All right, guys, so hey, do not go anywhere. We're going to jump on into our second segment. We got Karrion Kross cuts a pipe bomb that has been exploded all over the wrestling media. We're going to talk about it, maybe what it means. Is this the end of Karrion Kross in WWE, and maybe he wanted to go out with a bang? Or maybe this is WWE pulling our legs, saying that, just kind of reeling us in there, dangling that piece of cheese in front of the mouse or the hamster on the hamster wheel. And I'm that hamster. Anyways, we're going to talk about it. So grab your favorite snack, grab your favorite ice cold beverage, and join me here in about 25 seconds. So hey, do not go anywhere.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back with the GSMC Wrestling Laureate Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your favorite wrestling fan here, Eric Rodriguez. I go live every Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific Time on the GSMC Sports Network on YouTube and Twitch. Make sure you guys, like and subscribe so you guys can get some cool notifications when we publish new content. So, recently talked about some Smackdown. Make sure you guys check out that video. Leave comments, questions, or concerns in the comments section. Go ahead and sound off. Definitely want to hear what you guys have to say. But now we got Karrion Kross. Karrion Kross cutting a massive promo after WrestleMania, and it was a doozy. It was pretty crazy because I know a lot of people have been kind of spectating on what's going to happen to Karrion Kross when his time in WWE is over. His contract is nearing toward its end. The deal actually expires in the summer of this year, and so far WWE has had no talks in signing an extension, and that's a damn shame. Karrion Kross, he was amazing in Lucha Underground, also TNA. NXT, he was great. Two-time NXT World Champion, I believe. So I don't know, this promo though, it was nuts. It was really nuts. Like I said, this kind of creating a sense of realism. If this is if this obviously a total hoax and we're buying into it as wrestling fans. I like it. I definitely think WWE is doing such a great job of that. But So he basically just goes off, starts ranting about, all the backstage politics of, how he hasn't been really given any opportunities that he deserves. And, he mentioned Mitch missing funerals and birthdays and anniversary dates probably, just all for the good of the company. Obviously when you choose a life in professional wrestling, it's, you're going to be missing a lot of time. And, what he said about, Bill Goldberg gave me the best advice was, just be a good soldier. Being a good soldier has, lost me TV time. They go with other storylines for other superstars that maybe you kind of bring up and that you want to do. And maybe, they use it, like his ideas for, someone else or something like that. And, it's heartbreaking. That sucks. And, the politics of professional wrestling is, a lot of people kind of thought it ended with Vince McMahon leaving. And then Triple H, had that banger of a WrestleMania 40 during the Paul Levesque era. Did Triple H get lucky? Did he get lucky during this WrestleMania? Because last WrestleMania, this WrestleMania, I gotta be honest. Besides the main events and the main spots, I give it like a solid B or B plus. And then obviously WrestleMania is supposed to be like an A, A's all across the board. But there were some questionable calls. WWE has been definitely trying to explore the ideas of new talents, explore the ideas of non-traditional wrestling ways, like Solamente producing content in the United States. WWE is more globally, internationally known now, which is fantastic. Obviously, with the addition of AAA, but Triple H kind of did get lucky at WrestleMania 40. You had that build up between Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes already, basically already set in stone. And, the finish was absolutely perfect. It was awesome. So, it's a lot of, and plus there was some injuries, that happened as well. We're not too sure if maybe Seth Rollins would have lost that World Heavyweight Championship to Drew McIntyre or not. But, according to backstage and according to all the reports that I've read before the Pipebomb, obviously, I kind of had the understanding that Triple H obviously saw a little bit of himself inside of Karrion Kross. And, when he made it to the WWE main roster, he was supposed to, challenge Roman Reigns and the Bloodline. He was supposed to be that guy, but obviously that storyline got scrapped. Once again, kind of proving, maybe this promo was absolutely real, 1,010%. Karrion Kross has an amazing connection with the fans. They absolutely love him 1,010%. He stayed relevant, despite the fact that the Final Testament is, is gone. Obviously he's with his real life wife, Scarlett. And, once when AOP left, Paul Ellery, obviously everything... going down with the White Six. The White Six is gone, and they're just like, all right, Karrion, curveball. Karrion, we got something new for you. Karrion, we're gonna scrap this. He's super adaptable. Karrion Kross, he's able, to go from one idea to the next and be like, oh, it's fine. And he kind of saw it exploded. And, that's why I'm kind of hoping that it is real. But then again, if it isn't, if it's a promo, it's definitely one of the best promo pipe bombs. Obviously, you guys saw in the slideshow that, kind of being compared to the next, CM Punk pipe bomb. But I don't know. Is there still politics in WWE? Is the culture of Vince McMahon still lingering backstage? Because WWE promos have, they've been getting cray-cray, recently. You saw the Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton. So that's the reason why I feel like this isn't, so, oh my God, that's crazy. He even referenced AJ Styles' real name, Allen, which is usually, a no-no in terms of that. And, Karrion Kross with over 10 years of experience, he's sacrificed a lot. Then he mentioned, hey, should I start a new YouTube channel? And that's all it takes. Logan Paul is the definition of a shortcut. And that opens up a storyline with Logan Paul, 1,010%. That opens up a storyline with AJ Styles. There's this promo could have damn well did its part and will help Karrion Kross kind of further his career in the future. But all in all, kind of crazy. WWE selling out for viral moments is exactly what's happening. Like he mentioned about Logan Paul and the whole thing with Joe Hendry was the last person to challenge Randy Orton. For me personally, I would have rather saw Karrion Kross or maybe a Nick Aldis, but that obviously wasn't that wasn't the picture that Triple H had painted. He said obviously he should have faced Randy. He never asked for it, but it was kind of like an underlying jabbing here and there, be like, hey dude, like, come on, this would be perfect. But then they went with Joe. He said, nothing against Joe Hendry, which is pretty cool because I love Joe Hendry. So definitely I would have been throwing some shade on my man Killer Kross there. I'd be like, you know what, man? Don't talk down to Joe. I'm just kidding. No. But I do feel like Karrion Kross is owed just a little bit of something. He definitely... I want WWE to sign this guy back again. I do. There's nowhere else that would use Karrion Kross better in the wrestling world besides WWE, and of course all the underlying companies attached to it. Going to Ring of Honor, AEW, that would be big for them, 1,010%. But for Karrion, I gotta be honest, staying in WWE is kind of where he belongs. And at the end of the promo, of course, like telling the guy with the suit and tie inside the truck to go F himself, kind of from Killer Kross himself, and then he smacks away the mic. Storms out, he says, I'm tired of this, like, my ass, this promo was definitely a promo that I've watched over and over and over again, and every single time, you kind of linger on it, oh my God, when he says this, this was meant to happen, and, he has the stuff to back, he can back up his stuff, because everything he exploded about during that promo is absolutely true, and has been lingering in the minds of WWE fans. Like, for example, Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble. Of course, at the end of the, with the whole WrestleMania thing built up with Gunther, it kind of did serve its purpose, but that match was absolutely, it was crazy and had a crazy ending. Gunther tapping out, like, I'm lost for words. And, Karrion Kross said it best. He's speaking for all the true wrestling fans that are still out there. And I don't know, I really don't want to see this guy gone. I really honestly don't. July 19th of 2021, on Raw, he actually Kross lost to Hardy as the NXT champion in under Jeff Hardy in under 2 minutes. That was kind of before he got released, and it was kind of like, okay, so you promote the NXT champion just to lose against Jeff Hardy, which is crazy. Then he dropped the title to Samoa Joe. And, he just looked absolutely different. He got released in November 2021. I don't want to see this guy come back. Like, if he gets dropped again, if he gets released, I would feel bad for Kross, because Kross has been, like I said before, an absolute bombshell, adapting to different twists and turns and storylines. And, if anybody's able to kind of hold the WWE Championship, I would pick Karrion Kross. I would rather see Karrion Kross holding the World Heavyweight Championship than Jey Uso. Nothing against Jey. I just feel like, when Karrion Kross comes on the screen, of course, Jey Uso, he has the yeet and everything, and all the fans love it. Pat McAfee's going crazy. Michael Cole's going crazy. All the reasons to put the belt on Jey is absolutely, certified. It's, they're legit. They're legit. But, I don't know, I would love to see Karrion Kross win a title. He had an offer to go back down to NXT, basically shut it down, saying that he would not want to overshadow any of the young superstars, which is nice. That's great. Like, really, he's a team player. He cares about other superstars. He doesn't want them to suffer like he has. Dropping times and, losing appearances because somebody either comes back to WWE or they want to prompt, someone that they recently signed from, AEW, TNA, Ring of Honor, you name it. But, this guy should have been on WrestleMania. That's all I'm saying. And, after cut a massive, awesome promo, definitely love it. And, I can't wait to see more. All right, guys. So, hey, do not go absolutely anywhere. We're going to talk about our third segment. We got TNA Rebellion predictions. So grab your favorite snack, grab your favorite ice cold beverage. Join me here in about 20 seconds. So, hey, do not go anywhere.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we are back with the GSMC Wrestling Laureate Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your favorite wrestling fan here, Eric Rodriguez, every Monday night live on the GSMC Sports Network, streaming on YouTube and Twitch. 8 p.m. Pacific time, 11 p.m. Eastern time, so make sure you guys, smash that like and subscribe button so you guys can get some cool notifications when, we publish new content. Make sure you guys sound off in the comment section. So we recently talked about Smackdown, kind of gave you guys a little bit of my preview of what's going to happen tonight. Today we talked about Karrion Kross's absolutely badass promo that he cut. What does it mean for his future and maybe future storylines in WWE as well. Now we're going to talk about TNA. We're going to talk about TNA Rebellion. They have a PLE on Sunday. I, for one, I love TNA. I've always kind of been a huge fan. Kind of dropped it a little bit for a couple of years. But, now fully, totally, diverse into it. I know, it's because NXT and TNA is, they recently, partnered up. And, there's a little part of it. That is a little part of it. I've always kind of kept tabs on some of the, WWE stars that go to TNA and achieve, accomplished goals for the brand. So, I can't really hold that against me too much. Obviously, guys, hit up the tips and donations link. Tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like. Send in those super chats because you guys are super awesome. So, make sure you guys sound off in the comment section. Love to hear what you guys have to say. If you guys have different opinions about some of the stuff said during the segment, would love to hear from you guys. 1,010%. So don't be shy. Drop your thoughts inside that chat. For sure, we got TNA Rebellion, Los Angeles, California. I think you can get it at Thriller TV, for $39.99 if you guys want to, do that. But it's taking place in beautiful Los Angeles, which is right in my backyard. Los Angeles, it can be so beautiful at times, but it's so expensive. The traffic is, I guess you kind of, for all the taxes and, the inflation and stuff like that, I think at the end of the day, it kind of does serve its purpose to live in California. You kind of pay what you get, so you can't really complain too much. So let's go ahead and kick this off. We have in the pre-show, Fatal Influence, Fallon Henley, JC Jane, and Jasmine Nix taking on Xia Brooks' side, Lei Ying Lee, and Rosemary. Rosemary has kind of took shift on like another kind of storyline kind of playing of a more like a babyface kind of role. Fatal Influence, obviously the heels all across TNA, also NXT. It's been said that TNA, Anthem Sports loved JC Jane on TNA on a regularly weekly basis. So that could definitely, be a nice little home for her. Fatal Influence has kind of been a little lackluster. Fallon Henley, she was a great NXT Women's North American Champion, but I ultimately feel like maybe that she kind of deserves a little bit. She kind of deserved a little bit more. Sorry, excuse me. So now you have these three women, looking for a place to call home. And if you have JC Jane win that that TNA Knockouts World Championship, that'd be pretty badass. But in this pre-show, I'm sorry, I see the heels going down under. So I, definitely got to give it to Brookside, Lee, and Rosemary here. If I had to pick a winner, usually the pre-show is usually, set up to kind of prepare the audience for shocking twists. You know what I mean? Like if you have the heels win from the beginning, then you're gonna have the mindset that the heels are gonna win. But if you see the babyface, victorious, then you kind of walk into the show a little bit optimistic, and maybe we might see some shockers later on. But definitely, in the pre-show is gonna be one of the great, a great match. Elias, who will walk with Elijah during this open challenge. Obviously there's a lot of names that pop up. I kind of thought to myself, maybe Grande Americano. I'm just kidding, no. That would be pretty cool, though. That would be pretty cool. Sean Legacy would be pretty badass as well. Eddie Thorpe, but, obviously I feel pretty strongly about Randy Orton taking on that challenge. No, I'm just kidding. That would be great, though. That would be really good for TNA to have the Viper, just be, broadcasted on TNA Rebellion recently. You had Joe Hendry grace WrestleMania with his presence, a viral moment, causing a lot of eyes toward WWE. Wouldn't it be so shocking if, maybe Randy Orton, maybe he repays the favor. Perhaps he does, maybe he won't. Trick Williams, obviously, on the list. I, recently on NXT, kind of saw him, explode a little bit, talking about, not giving opportunities. I feel like he's pissed. He wants to make an example out of somebody. He's going to go to TNA, give a hard-fought match against Elijah. But, for the sake of Trick Williams' heel turn, I feel like maybe he's going to pick up a loss, a well-fought loss against Elijah, further spiraling him out of control. Remember, Elijah, he did team up with, Joe Hendry yesterday on Impact to take on Ethan Page. Oh, my God, I can't believe I'm blanking. And the other guy in the triple threat match. Oh, my God. Oh, Frankie Kazarian. So, that could be a possibility. It would kind of fit into the storyline, too. Lexis King losing his NXT Heritage Cup Championship to Noam Dar. Completely frustrated. Goes to TNA to get some retribution. Just kind of release some anger. It would be cool to see Javon Evans. That boy, bouncy. Ultimately, I would love to see Javon Evans holding the X Division Championship. Maybe this is a nice way to introduce him to the possibility of him coming to TNA full time. Next, we have 3-on-3 match. We have the System, Eddie Edwards, Brian Myers, and JDC taking on Ace Austin and the Rascals, Trey Miguel and Zachary Wentz, with Sean Waltman. I think it's Waltman. I think that's how he pronounces it. I could be wrong. X-Pac, X-Pac. I don't really know why he's in their corner, but whenever you see a WWE legend, I guess people get crazy. I liked X-Pac, but X-Pac was probably my least favorite character in D-Generation X. Not throwing shade at all, not throwing shade, but I'm just keeping it real, yo. But I'm just kidding. I definitely think that because people love the Rascals. People love Ace Austin. I think, we're going to get a back-to-back babyface win here. I got the Rascals and Ace Austin picking up the dub. Next, Mike Santana taking on Mustafa Ali. They've been building up this feud for quite some time. Mike Santana, obviously the future of TNA. I feel like I feel like at the end of the year, maybe not the end of, by the end of the year, I was going to say by the end of this summer, he's going to be holding the TNA World Championship, but I don't think so. Maybe Slammiversary. So what is that, in July? Maybe, possibly. We have a head-to-head showdown with Mike Santana taking on Joe Hendry for that TNA World Championship. Mustafa Ali, I feel like he's, ever since losing the X Division Championship, where he took a little bit of a hiatus, then he comes back announcing that he signed a new lucrative contract with TNA and Anthem Sports. So awesome. I'm just kidding. No, I respect Mustafa Ali. Loved him on 205 Live. What he's been doing in TNA has been absolutely remarkable. I'm going to give the dub to Santana here. I really don't see the reason to derail Santana's momentum of becoming, on his way to becoming a star in TNA. So, definitely, I have Santana pick up the win here. Steve Macklin, the newly crowned TNA International Champion, takes on Eric Young. I love Macklin. Definitely think he's cool. But I got Young winning this one. Young just seems more like, I don't want to say desperate, more like he's willing to do anything right now to kind of have a championship around his waist, a little bit more aggressive. He wants it more. Macklin, still, he's great. Like I said, do nothing against him. But, having the title around, Macklin, around Joe Hendry, the Hardys and Masha Slamovich, it kind of seems like it screams like neutral to babyface to babyface to babyface. There needs to be somebody to hold the heel, and I would love to see Eric Young, pick up the victory here. That'd be pretty cool. Fatal 4-way match for the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team titles. All these 4 teams are amazing. I gotta be honest, I really, really want to see the Meta Girls win. I love Jakara Jackson. I love Lash Legend. They are absolutely freaking amazing. But Ash by Elegance and Heather by Elegance just picked up those titles not too long ago. I don't see them dropping it so soon. Spitfire is going to be amazing inside the match, but they're not going to win. And Tatum Paxley, Gigi Doling, recently they had a shot on Tuesday to win the World Tag Team titles for WWE. Now they get a second shot here. Love Paxley, love Doling, but it just makes the most sense to have Ash and Heather win. But but then again, I think there might be a curveball or something like that. I think they said that Heather might not. Is it Heather or Ash? Ash, I think Ash. They said that she might not be able to participate. You saw them on TNA Impact. They had like a FaceTime call. Ash obviously is super upset, and maybe she doesn't find her way back to the arena. That's still up in the air, and that would be a great way for her to lose the tag team titles. But they had a great match against Spitfire a couple of times, and then they finally dethroned them. So I don't know, it just makes no sense to kind of take the titles away. But if I had to put the money on it, I would have Ash and Heather by Elegance win. But I want to see an NXT team like Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson win, which would be pretty cool. All right, we have the Ultimate X for the X Division Championship. I feel like, I love Leon Slater, the future of the X Division. Moose, he's great. He's good. I give him a lot of baggage because he had that TNA World title run for quite some time. And then, he loses it to Nick, and then he comes back to the X Division. I'm like, dude, you're heavyweight. You know what I mean? That's like Brock Lesnar fighting for the Intercontinental Championship. But, Moose knows how to wrestle more than Brock. So, he makes the X Division, he makes it look good. It's not so down like, ultimately kind of thought it was going to be. But, I don't know. And there's still, some great, participants that are going to fight in this match. It's going to be really, honestly, up in the air. You saw, I think, Vikingo, recently with, Triple H, and then Matt Cardona as well. I would love to see Matt win the championship. I got to be honest. I would love to see Matt Cardona win. But then again, it's like a wrestling under, not an understatement. That's not the right word. It's like a wrestling unwritten rule that, if you fight against in a triple threat match, fatal 5-way, fatal 4-way, Ultimate X Championship in a ladder match, yada, 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 there's going to be a shock because, an unexpected person might pick up the victory. That's how you saw Moose lose that TNA World Championship because he was pinned by Joe. So maybe, it all comes full circle and it happens again. But I don't know. Who knows? But, if I had to pick a winner, I'm 50-50 on Cardona and Moose. So, but it's going to be an awesome match. Next, we have the TNA World Tag Team titles, the Hardy Boys, taking on Nick and Ryan Nemeth. I have Nick and Ryan Nemeth winning in this one. And, and I really hope that, the rumors aren't true. But it looks like the Hardy Boys might find their way into WWE once again, And, I respect the Hardys, legends. They're amazing. One of the greatest tag teams in all of professional wrestling. I get it. But, the Hardys, if they go to Raw, they could, help the struggling tag team division over there. NXT, I got to be honest, you kind of have to keep your hands off of NXT. On SmackDown, they definitely don't need SmackDown. And, Nick and Ryan Nemeth would be amazing tag team champions. When you have a belt around, Nick Nemeth, the company really does pretty well. So, you got to be honest, I'm going to pick the Nemeth brothers in this one. You had them go to the Hardy compound and then, stealing the tag team titles. But, anything could happen. Obviously the Hardy Boys and TNA, ever since both of them went there, have been absolutely stellar. So, it's still up in the air. All right, Masha Slamovich taking on Tessa Blanchard. Slamovich has had this title for quite some time. She loses it or she drops it. It really won't be a shock. It really won't be she's not good enough. All those kind of questions go out the window. With that being said, I would love to see a different direction in the TNA Knockouts division. Tessa Blanchard, I would love to see Tessa Blanchard pick up the victory here. It would kind of add a new little spice to the TNA Knockouts division. And, maybe you see Masha Slamovich kind of sign with NXT. You have a lot of women NXT stars that are going to be brought up in the draft. Obviously, I feel, Vicaire, Gulia, Roxanne Perez, maybe some Cora Jade, there's a lot of, Jordan Grace maybe, and then she goes to NXT. That would be ideal. Make the women's division a lot more better. But I got Tessa Blanchard picking up this victory. And in the main event, I kind of hinted at it before about how I feel like Mike Santana should win the TNA World Championship. Joe Hendry's gonna win. I feel like he is gonna win. That recent pop at WrestleMania, you can't take the title off of such of a big baby face. That's good for you. That's good business. It's good business. Very marketable. So with that being said, I don't think that they're going to take the titles off of them. This would be a nice way to kind of keep Kazarian, to keep him, what's the word I'm trying to say? Relevant, I guess you can say, in the main, in the main heavyweight picture. It'd be a great way for Ethan Page to, he's not going to get pinned. I don't think he's going to get pinned. Then he's going to go into the WWE draft, being like, oh, I was in a TNA World Championship match. I was never pinned. This and that and the other. So, that could be a possibility, but I don't see Joe Hendry dropping the title. Not yet. Not just yet. But, TNA Rebellion, make sure you guys check it out. It's going to be super, super badass, taking place in my backyard, Los Angeles, California. Speaking of the draft, we have NXT stars to be drafted and called up. So we're going to talk about that. So grab your favorite snack, grab your favorite ice cold beverage. Join me here in about 15 seconds. So, hey, do not go anywhere.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And welcome back to the GSMC Wrestling Laureate Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your favorite wrestling fan here, Eric Rodriguez. I'm live on the GSMC Sports Network, streaming on YouTube and Twitch every Monday night, 8 p.m. Pacific time. So make sure you guys check those out, and make sure you guys Superman punch that like and subscribe button. All right, we talk about all the action inside and outside the ring on this podcast. We talk about all the wrestlers, inactive statuses, injury updates, contract negotiations, extensions, and new signings, releases. We talk about promotions from AEW to New Japan Professional Wrestling to, with the WWE now with, AAA. We talk sometimes CMLL. We talk, a little bit in the past ECW, WCW. So, this full wrestling podcast, definitely, something that you guys should definitely consider, signing up, subscribe. Why not? Talk about wrestling with your favorite wrestling fan, and it's always good. It's all gravy, baby. All right, so without further ado, we have NXT stars to be called up to SmackDown or Raw heading into the draft, obviously right around the corner. When I say right around the corner, I think it's going to start next week. Last year, it started around this exact time. I think it was actually the 24th, which is, kind of crazy. I feel like it will be referenced on SmackDown. You'll get that, you'll get that after somebody cuts a badass promo on SmackDown, then you'll get the draft is coming. All your favorite superstars don't know where they're going. Some NXT call-ups. You're going to get something. You probably get something like that. But, I love the draft. The draft is always one of my favorite times of the season. Obviously, NFL draft taking place last night. Still no home for Shedeur Sanders. Got to be honest, sidebar, I was happy that the Giants didn't sign him. He seems like a public relations disaster. Seems like nepotism at its best. He didn't participate in the combine, which, and people don't. I get it. Cam Ward didn't, but I feel like Cam Ward kind of had the skills to kind of be like, why should I do this? But Shedeur, he was, I feel like he didn't have the room to kind of just be like, oh no, I don't get to, I'm not, you guys don't deserve me to, to compete at the combine or whatever, so. And I was happy that no team drafted him. It was kind of cool. He was backstage with his dad, both of them kind of looking pissed off because that any NFL organization or team that drafts Shedeur Sanders, you're going to have Deion Sanders on your ass. You're going to have him barking and chirping in the coach's ears, in, management and the ownership. And it's just going to be like, when you have that kid on a high school baseball team and his dad is nothing but trouble, and he'd be like, oh, if we don't have that kid on the team, what are you going to do with the dad, but nothing against Shedeur. I definitely hope that he finds a team, but I don't know. I feel like maybe a little bit of nepotism there, maybe a little bit. But yeah, let's talk about wrestling. Back to professional wrestling. We have the WWE Draft right around the corner, and we have people to be drafted. Definitely 1,010%. I got Roxanne Perez. Roxanne Perez has been on Smackdown. She's been competing against the likes of Bayley, answering challenges, on Raw. She attacked, Io Sky and Stephanie McCare. So I definitely think that we're going to see the prodigy on WWE Raw. I see her on, but then again, seeing her against Tiffany Stratton would be pretty badass. But I feel like right now the women's division on SmackDown is just about to heat up. Naomi, she needs a storyline. Jade needs a storyline. You have Charlotte Flair, who I don't think will walk away from Tiffany Stratton ever since losing at WrestleMania so kindly. We have Alexa Bliss still in the likes. We have Nia Jax still waiting for a storyline. The thing that makes the most sense, and I know that Becky just came back to Raw, and all that jazz, but I feel like she's gonna be the face of the Women's Intercontinental Championship picture. But with Roxanne Perez, I feel like would be an amazing fight against her and Io Sky. And, I feel like she's going to be the next one to be called up. Someone that I did want to get called up, I wanted Tony D'Angelo to be called up with the family. Maybe he does, and then maybe we have Luca and Adriana Rizzo, join their new, not like a heel, like underboss, like Stacks. But I don't know, but then again with family, kind of the realism of professional sports hitting, real life is the fact that families, they do fight and they do say stuff to each other. They, sometimes physical altercations, which is definitely, not cool. But, at the end, you kind of look at each other, you hug it out, and then at the end of the day, we're still family. So maybe perhaps we kind of get that little bit, that storyline, and then we will see the family drafted together. But I wanted to see these guys come together. I did. I want to see them come to SmackDown. The Bloodline storyline is basically dead without Roman Reigns, The Rock, the WWE Championship, and now Paul Heyman's out of the picture. So it'd be kind of cool to have just a different flavor, having the family, Tony D'Angelo going after the United States Championship. Obviously, the belt is on Jakob, so it'd be kind of a little bit setting him up to failure right off the bat would be kind of bad. But it seems like he's going to stay on NXT. I don't think he's going to come up to WWE Raw or SmackDown, which kind of sucks. But he is great in NXT, so really no complaints. Trick Williams, this guy needs a new direction in his career. It makes absolute sense for him to go to SmackDown or Raw, preferably Raw. Because if he goes to SmackDown, then he runs back, maybe a feud with Carmelo Hayes. Or maybe he looks Carmelo Hayes straight in the face and be like, hey, man, you told me about all the politics and doing whatever it takes to keep your championship. Guess what? You were right. And Carmelo Hayes did do that with the NXT North American Championship. He, to protect his legacy, he turned on his friend Trick and took him out. And, and right now, Trick Williams is kind of showing Carmelo Hayes vibes. He lost that NXT World Championship. Ever since then, went nuts. And maybe he didn't do what it takes to keep that title. Maybe he should have, to still be the champion, cut a little bit of corners here and there, stretch the rules a little bit. So if Trick Williams is coming to SmackDown, would love to see him and Carmelo get back together. That would be so sick. Make the tag team division that much better. He comes to Raw. Mid-card title holder, maybe. But the Intercontinental Championship recently crowned by Dominic Mysterio. Then there's Finn Balor, AJ Styles, maybe Karrion Kross, Braun Breaker still. It's a doozy. Obviously, I feel like they are setting up Seth Rollins taking on Jey Uso at SummerSlam. But I don't know. It's still up in the air. Trick Williams will definitely be called up, though. We saw Julia on Monday Night Raw attack Stephanie McCare. Io Sky as well, Japanese wrestling, sensation. I can't wait. I would love to see her and Io go at it, definitely. But if she comes to the main roster, With Roxanne Con, I feel like it's about time. But, Julia recently came to WWE NXT. Her 70th career, Jordan Grace, I feel like will kind of be the backbone a little bit, And Zarya right now, she's in the tag team bout with, Soruka, but I feel like she will, jump into the title picture as well eventually. So Julia leaving NXT to go to Raw, it'd be cool. It'd be great. But at the same time, maybe it'll cripple NXT a little bit, but you do have Evolve. You do have Evolve. So, maybe she does come, so a lot of stars. Ethan Page. Ethan Page has been rumored to be drafted for a long time. I think even last year. Really? No, I don't think he was here yet last year. I could be wrong. No, not yet. But he could definitely 1,010% be just an asset anywhere he goes. SmackDown, Raw, if he stays on NXT. But his time in NXT has already seemed like it's, he's kind of been there, done that. He's ready for something different. Plus, maybe he joins The Rock. Him and The Rock talk backstage. The Rock, gave him a handshake, gave him some love, being like, hey, I'll see you, one of these days on probably the main, on the main shows and stuff like that. So, maybe that could be a little bit of foreshadowing of what to expect from all ego Ethan Page. Or maybe The Rock decides to, go all in with Ethan, turn on John Cena. Then John Cena gets his, retribution story where, which I feel like he will. I feel like John Cena will retire in front of the fans as a babyface now more than ever. Doubt he'll stay a heel. Right now, a little misunderstanding, a little hurt. He's going to have his redemption story. He's a Hollywood actor. He could keep the fans lingering on every moment, everything he says, every emotion shown during his promos. So, if anybody could literally, tomorrow, turn the fans from hating him to loving him, it's got to be John Cena. 1,010%. Fraxium. I thought during the Superstar Shakeup we were going to see Fraxium, but we didn't. And it bummed me out because I was like, dude, this Raw division is hurting. This WWE World Tag Team Championship picture sucks eggs, man. It's awful. It really is awful. Earlier I was like, why did, the New Day, they turn heel like it's cool and all. But I was like, if they stayed babyface, and they would have stayed marketable for WWE, I feel like they should have won the tag team championships a long time ago. You know what I mean? If you were going to put the titles on the War Raiders anyways, it'd be like, okay, so what was literally the point of the New Day turning heel? Like Karrion Kross said in his promo, they had that viral moment where they kicked out Big E and said, you were out with a broken neck, but so what? This and that and the other. And then maybe another viral moment, going bad. You go all in for the for the clickbait, for to be broadcasted all over Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, whatever you use. And now the storyline doesn't make sense. They're tag team champions, but are they really? Were they really that great in that match? Are they really more profitable for WWE as the heels that they basically can't get a word out? They're pissed off. They're pissed off teenagers running all over the back and be like, why do people hate us? What? It's just like, oh my God, it's just funny. Nathan Frazier and Axiom would definitely help the Raw Tag Team division. Without a doubt. 1,010%. But they would need the titles on them, which I feel like they can have that. Maybe they win on SummerSlam. Maybe they do. But, these guys would be amazing on the main roster. Oba Femi, he kills it on NXT, obviously, 1,010%. And if he made his way to Raw or SmackDown, it'd be big. Maybe not SmackDown because, the draft is happening and superstars are going to be shooken up. But as of right now, SmackDown, they have Uncle Howdy and the Wyatt Six, big dudes. They have Braun Strowman, a big dude. They have the United States champion, Jakob Fatu, big dude. So, Oba, most likely, Raw, Bronson Reed, that's probably the only big other threat there. But, the newly crowned Intercontinental Champion, Dominic Mysterio, would be in heavy trouble. I don't know how long he's going to hold the title. I doubt for that long, being honest. And then the world title picture, Jey Uso. And then you have Gunther as well, probably wanting a rematch. So, I feel like a lot of the pay-per-view card or the PLE card WrestleMania Backlash is kind of already filled. We might get a bunch of matches like rehashed, which is okay, which is cool. But I don't know. Should be interesting to find out if Oba gets drafted. Stephanie McCare, I like the fact that she showed up on Monday Night Raw to, look Io Sky in the face and, international wrestling sensations going at it. Amazing, gifted, talented women who deserves all the attention in wrestling right now. That women's division in NXT is a bombshell, is an absolute juggernaut. So I really don't see Vaquer leaving that situation. I would feel like, she is the face of NXT right now. When you think of Stephanie Vaquer, much like when you think of NXT, you kind of think of one or, one and the other, vice versa. But, wherever Stephanie Vaquer obviously winds up, she's going to be amazing. Nothing really to kind of stop from, from talking about that there. But, those are a couple of NXT superstars that might find their way up to the main roster heading into the WWE Draft. All right, our fifth and final segment. We talked about it. We got what's next for Trick Williams. Is the Whoop That Trick era done in WWE? So grab your favorite snack, grab your favorite ice cold beverage. Join me here in about 25 seconds. So, hey, do not go anywhere. Alright, and we are back with the GSMC Wrestling Laureate Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your favorite wrestling fan, Eric Rodriguez, live every Monday night, 8 p.m. Pacific time, 11 p.m. Eastern time, here to talk about the greatest thing in the world of professional wrestling. We talk about all the action inside and outside the ring. Backstage curtain calls, all the rumors, all the dramas, all the conspiracy theories and whatnot. We talk about superstar inactive statuses, injury updates, contract negotiations, extensions, and new signings, along with releases. Then we talk about promotions from AEW to Ring of Honor to TNA to Stardom to New Japan Professional Wrestling to WWE, you name it. If it makes major news in the world of professional wrestling, we talk about it here on this show, 1,010%. So don't forget the Superman, punch that like and subscribe button to the show. All right, so without further ado, we have our fifth and final segment. What is next for the former WWE NXT World Champion Trick Williams? Trick Williams, he's gifted, he's talented, generational star. If he gets drafted to Smackdown or Raw, I feel like he'll be fine. Obviously I would rather see him go to Smackdown and reconnect with Carmelo Hayes. But right now it seems like his time in NXT might be winding down. Of course, maybe he joins Dark State. Maybe something happens like that. But there's already 4 dudes in Dark State. So I feel like right now, and it feels like the overall purpose of Dark State is to promote the young talent that is involved already. And if Trick Williams, he's being considered to be drafted to SmackDown or Raw, having him kind of get invested in that would kind of be redundant. Would kind of be like, all right, why? You know what I mean? But I don't know. So we got Trick Williams here. Trick Williams might be leaving NXT, maybe not. But let's go ahead and talk. Let's talk about it. Imagine this guy showing up on your screen Friday nights and Monday nights. It would go crazy. Obviously, Jey Uso, they have the yeet already, the yeets. Imagine whoa, that trick. Whoa, that trick. You know what I mean? It seems a little iconic to probably only NXT, but I feel like it would make a pop on Raw and on SmackDown. But he's such an NXT guy. And with this whole new partnership with TNA, I doubt he'll go to TNA. I doubt it. Maybe to confront Joe Joe Hendry and try to fight him for that TNA World Championship. But like as of right now, I really don't see a reason to why to include him in any storylines for TNA at the moment. But he is 1,010%. He seems adamant. He seems absolutely obsessed with the fact that he wants to become the NXT Championship holder once again. Maybe he takes the title off of Oba, and then Oba Femi gets drafted. But that's a short period of time, and despite everything that's going down, it seems like the fans are happy with Oba. But hey, weirder things have happened. Recently on WWE NXT this Tuesday, we saw 3 amazing, talented superstars. Oba Femi, obviously the NXT World Heavyweight Champion Joe Hendry, the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, and Trick Williams, the former. But they kind of did Trick a little dirty here. He's the outside guy looking in. They both grabbed him, tossed him over the top rope, and then Oba didn't attack Joe. So I was like, damn, that just makes Trick Williams like so damn weak. You know what I mean? Like, hey, get out of here, Pipsqueak, get out of here. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. But obviously that played into what happened later on with Trick Williams going crazy backstage. Oba Femi is loved by the NXT universe. I really don't feel like dropping the title to Trick really is in the future. But it's professional wrestling. I could be wrong 1,010%. Poor Ava dealing with all the pandemonium that is WWE NXT. Trick Williams was pissed, dude. He was mad. He was upset. He was, he's obsessed with this, becoming the NXT champion once again. I'm getting Carmelo vibes from this guy. You know what I mean? Like I said, maybe like somehow, some way, like maybe he's the new Carmelo Hayes. He's not exactly him, but there's some possibilities. There's some possible storylines out there. Targeting the NXT North American champion Ricky Saints would probably be a start. You have him drop his championship match against Oba, kind of hitting a wall, kind of that what am I doing with my life kind of moment. And then, maybe then you see, Ricky Saints and Trick Williams have a great match. When they first met, it was a little hostile. Trick Williams, obviously, he said it with Ethan Page. He said it with Lexis King. All these outsiders coming to WWE. Ricky Saints, Ricky Starks, obviously AEW. So, kind of having that storyline factor hitting all the underlying edges that creates a good promo. Is maybe it's creating more things for the future between these two superstars, and having them go at it would be absolutely be the biggest face-off ever. But like I said, he comes to SmackDown, tells Carmelo Hayes, looks him dead in the eye. He was like, look, man, to keep your North American Championship, or your NXT World Championship, like I understand why you did it. And it makes sense. And to be honest, I would have did the same exact thing, because he kind of did that to Javon Evans. He kind of pulled the Carmelo Hayes attacking Trick Williams. Then Trick Williams and Javon Evans be like, what are you doing? Javon, he's your friend. Kind of that same moment. These guys link back together for a tag team, in SmackDown. The tag team division on SmackDown is absolutely popping. There's going to be a TLC match tonight. I can't wait to see that. But what if they go to Raw? The Raw tag team division is an absolute dumpster fire. Having him get back together with Whoop That Trick would be, oh my God, would be one of the most phenomenal things in the world. Putting these two guys back together, both of them ran through NXT, kind of leaving a little disgruntled, kind of coming in, being like, hey, to achieve success in this business, to maintain gold, to maintain being on top, keeping that cash flowing in, you have to sometimes play dirty. You have to play, sometimes you can't always play by the rules. You got to cut edges here and there. You got to stretch the truth a little bit. So that would be bomb. I would love to see these two guys come back together 1,010%. If he makes it to SmackDown, they start beefing, and maybe they have like a month span where they have like 3 matches. That'd be cool for a month or a month and a half. But after that, what else? What else is going to happen with him? Carmelo Hayes right now, recently winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, which is great for him. Absolutely love that they're finally starting to do something with Carmelo Hayes. But, you don't want Trick Williams to come to the main roster and kind of be left out in the dark, much like Carmelo Hayes was for a little bit there. But I would love to see him turn on The Miz. And then The Miz, maybe, they start battling it out. He starts beating the holy hell out of, Carmelo Hayes, and then bam, hits that Like, that would be pretty cool. Gotta be honest, that'd be pretty cool. But are we gonna get it? I definitely hope so. I want him to come to SmackDown. It just, at this point, it seems like that's the only thing I feel like that will revive this character kind of thing. But, you know, if he's gonna turn heel, just go all the way, man. Go all the way. Once loved by the WWE Universe, will probably be once hated, and then back to love. That's just how wrestling is. That's just what that just happens. That's just what happens. You know, during the pandemic Thunderdome era, does anybody remember Seth Rollins trying to take out Rey Mysterio's eye with on the edge of the steel steps, and then the people were singing to his song? Oh, like it's just wrestling. You know, that's the main point here. But, man, I really want to see these two back together. You know, go and running it back with D.I.Y. Would be sick. Would be pretty badass. WWE has to make this happen. This draft needs to revive Trick. It really does. You know, he's been kind of on the losing side a little bit, provided that Obafemi did pin Javon Evans. But if you put the NXT title back around Trick and you have Oba drop it. Oba right now, he's loved by the fans, like I mentioned before. You know, he's going to come back. What is he going to, like, change his own persona and be like a babyface and apologize to everybody for flipping out, and apologize to Ava, apologize to Javon Evans for being like kind of like a jackass? Is that going to happen? That's what I'm saying. I'm like, it seems like at this point, the only way is up, and heading up is turning into a heel. I'm sorry, but, you know, Trick Williams, he's done it before. Whoop that Trick. I would love to see him kind of, you know, be the face of either, you know, Raw, SmackDown, mid-card division. I don't think they're going to jump him up to the heavyweight so quick. Or the tag team division. That'd be sick. But like I said, NXT, he's a 2-time NXT champion. It seems like, much like Ethan, it feels like to gain anything from NXT, I feel like is already kind of on the underside. I want to see something fresh. The fans want to see something fresh with Trick Williams, and him coming to Raw or SmackDown would be badass. Like I said, I prefer SmackDown and him tag teaming with Carmelo Hayes once again. You know, and then they become, you know, totally badass and totally awesome. You know, definitely furthering that tag team division that about like 6 months ago, before the Motor City Machine Guns showed up, it seemed like it was kind of dead. So, you know, imagine, you know, him and Trick Williams back together again. That would be pretty cool. But obviously, you know, wrestling conspiracy theories, you know, just hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Wrestling Laureate Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Hope you guys have an amazing, fun-filled weekend. Stay safe. Hold your loved ones longer. Say you're sorry. Say I love yous. You know, life's too short. 1,010%. Just want to make sure you guys, you know, Superman punch that like and subscribe button to the show to get some notifications. You know, make sure you guys like us on Twitter. Make sure you guys subscribe, or X, whatever you guys like to call it. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. Make sure you guys check out all the other guys' this podcast. We have all these amazing, passionate podcasters who have one thing in mind, to make sure you guys are fully satisfied on your sports content that you guys love so damn much. And guess what? It's FREE free. So 1,010%. Give us a little love there. Definitely throwing you guys some love. Stay beautiful, but most importantly, love you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go.